Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I am your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pinos Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. I am in the Extreme Studios with the understudy, the young 20-something Professor Pixel, as we continue diving into the depths of Forever Night, Season 2, Episode 2. Pixel, obviously, we got from Episode 1 what I felt was a bit of a tonal shift. We'll see if that continues in Episode 2. I think, initially speaking, the answer is yes. And what better way to start off a crime show than a prostitute? And while there might be a continuous amount of hoe inflation today and just, whatever you want to say about women's rights and, the ability to sell their bodies and all that, you know what? This episode delves into the deep, darkest desires, not just of the strength of women being feminine and owning themselves and not being slaves to the patriarchy. They're discussing what happens if you happen to stay alive. In other words, what might be a fate worse than death. The name of this episode, sir. I love this episode. I thought it was actually very strong, surprisingly and pleasantly so, and I can't wait to get into some of these scenes. So for you, what, sir, is your initial take, young man?
Yeah, you know how I felt last week, how I really did not like that episode at all. It felt like it's like your worst nightmare of like, oh, this is bad TV. That's how it felt to me. It felt like a really bad episode. Like I wasted 40 minutes and it felt like 2 hours. Today, though, was fantastic. Oh my gosh. Like, complete 180. This is fantastic. Right from the get-go, you got this guy that's like doing a little dance as he's walking down the hall. We see a woman in lingerie getting ready in the hotel room, and we can assume that he's going for her. Stops the guy, hey, bring some champagne, bring me a whatever. And he goes ahead and goes into the room, and he's just feeling himself. He's ready to feel something else. But we got a glimpse of a gun with the lady before. And we find out what happens. She's dead on the side. He like reaches across the bed and, wait, what's that, blood? And he runs out of there. Right from the get-go, it's a good setup. It takes us right into the heart of the crime. And we, I'm feeling good.
Nothing
better than the prostitute.
The prostitute, very attractive woman. I love the fact that supposedly her pimp was trying to get rid of her because she turned 22 or whatever. I mean, it's like the Leo DiCaprio rules, right? I thought this shot was pretty good with the guy because he's like, fuck, and he's got the wedding ring on, so he's a player. But I love it. He's got the finger guns going on, walking through the hall. He's like really, really happy because he's getting ready to get busy. I thought, man, for a guy that's ordering a bottle of champagne, and then he wants a scotch and soda also brought up too with this high-priced escort girl and all that too. I'm like, it's got whiskey dick right on over, but it doesn't get to that point because, to your point, she's dead. D-E-D, dead. Very beautiful woman who got shot by the mysterious gun and muzzle flash that we see, right? Okay, so we know something's going to go on here. And pretty standard stuff, actually, when you watch cop shows and dramas. You don't need it to be more particular than that. I did not get creepy, weird vibes from this guy. It was just a guy trying to get some on the side or whatever like that. Okay, so that's fine. And, woman didn't look like she was on crack or like that. See, here's the thing. When you're high-priced, the men come to you and you have the third party set you up in the hotel room so you can have your muscle and you can blackmail people. When you're a grifter and all that too, then it gets a little lower class and weirder, seedier things can happen. But I just love his nonchalance walking in. That's right. It was kind of a fun step. Like, kaplowy, bam, she's dead. Not the guy, okay? And then we get some detective work as they start in between him and Skanky as we start the episode after, again, what I consider is a tremendous opening song, music, which they have not modified at all. I love it with the dun-dun, the heartbeat sounds and all that. Looking at the Toronto Tower. Great stuff.
He came across time from 1901 or whatever.
It's like you have to exaggerate and say half the sentence. He was brought across 800, and it's like, oh my God, that's just a great little opening there. And it's just long enough. I think it's maybe a minute. Perfect. Yeah, so I like the setup too.
Yeah. From that, Skanky and Nick look at the scene, and they look through. What do they look through? Don't they look through like her belongings, and they find a matchbook that says the Raven, which takes them over to a nightclub that he goes to often.
So simple, so effective, and you know what scene they're going to go to next. They're going to do the transition shot with the matchbook that has the Raven on it. Yes. So we're getting more Raven. And what happens when we get to Raven besides sweet, sexy Jeanette and all that too? We get to see those weird camera angles. And the club music playing in the background, which doesn't stop. That's perfect. I love it. Give me more of the Raven.
Yeah, no, it looks nice, and we got. I am not sure what they're doing with, because obviously they aren't unfriendly with each other, but Nick is coming on to her constantly this season. Like with the last episode, and this one, he goes in for a kiss early on, and she like pulls away because she's disturbed by this news about this girl dying. What's her name? Anna something? No, Julie Beamer.
I think what it is, if you look at it from the perspective of what was going on here, one, they're European. So you can be a bit more physically affectionate without it meaning something on a deeper level, and that may include sex. You know, we have a lot of Puritan values in the United States, although they've been quickly eroding over the years. So it's not a good or bad thing. It just kind of describes how it is. I'm not going to put morals onto it. And also keep in mind, they're both been together roughly about 800 years, and we have not gotten a lot of their backstory. But as we would find out, we're going to basically get the Jeanette origin story in this episode, which I have no idea seeing it coming, because like you, I thought originally they were trying to make him and Natalie be a little bit more, I thought, like a potential human vampire interest. Don't know if that will continue. It's obviously put on the back burner if it will ever happen. And here with Jeanette, I do agree with you. We see him being a little bit more relaxed and not that pensive schoolboy who's emotionally wound up, and she's like the mature older woman that tells him how life really is. It's like the roles are opposite here. And she's obviously bothered by something. And I thought this was an interesting take because immediately I got the vibe that they're going to give her a little bit more screen time. I had no idea how much screen time they were going to give her. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Because right at this beginning, we get a flashback, and it's not Nick's. There, it is astounding just to shift focus away, because we don't really have. We know that she's obviously been involved with Lacroix and Nick all this time, but we never got to see that origin story. So she knows about the ladies of the night. She offers protection to them because at one point she was. And there's a lot of parallels.
Get it? She's a lady of the night as a vampire.
Yeah. I meant.
But she really was. We find that out in this episode. She was one of those too.
Yeah.
She was both.
That's why it's so personal for her. And she goes ahead and mentions it later on, but we're going to go ahead and talk about it. Being a vampire, it's kind of like being a prostitute. You've got this overpowering figure that is using you, that has turned you into its spawn to go ahead and go work for him, and makes you feel weak and helpless without them. And that is fantastic. There is one thing I cannot remember if last season there was a conversation about mirrors. So in the vampire
lore, go ahead, keep going. Yeah.
Vampire lore, because we start with them in that hotel room. We got to see Nick in the mirror. So the thing is, the reason why that's a part of vampire lore is that mirrors would be backed with silver, like classic mirrors would be backed with silver. Now they aren't usually. That is not something you'll find commonly. So it's not too unbelievable. I just can't remember if they addressed that last season.
You know what? I really don't remember, because what I do remember last season, particularly the first episode, very strong entrance, I thought of Nick's character when he comes in, where he vamps the guy about, you won't remember this or that. We're going to get that in here. So they're reestablishing certain things. So I think this is a brilliant observation on your part. One, because I completely overlooked it and I'm totally not thinking about it because I don't know what they are. And I haven't been looking for it. I almost basically say it's human, except, occasionally he'll show fangs and do the vampire stuff. So that's why I said it felt more like a cop drama and less vampire there. And now we're getting at least more 50-50, I think. And in this scene here, you're absolutely right, because the way they shoot the angles in the Raven, I just love it. It's kind of campy, but I love the effect, and the lighting is a little bit green and bluish and washed out. The thing with Jeanette, it's her talking about the patriarchy. It's important because basically the analogy here is that as vampires, they're not humans anymore. They're basically slaves to Lacroix, because he turned them, and we don't know exactly how she got turned. We find out in this episode. Of course, they show us literally, and I think it's awesome. And we see it a little bit with him, but also they parallel with what's going on with the current story. And much like we talked about a few years ago when we reviewed Dark Shadows, the revival, the 12, 14 episodes, whatever it was, we talked a lot about how the stories in the past parallel the exact same ones in the future. And we get that in this episode. And that makes you almost want to watch it, because you can go, well, wait a minute. I'm seeing it in the future. Maybe it came from the past. And we see Jeanette getting a chance to kind of act a little bit less flirty and flighty and like a club girl, and more like a serious, older, mature woman who's seen a lot, because she is so pissed about she can't even look at Nick. And you're right. He always has a tough time with her reading the room. He always feels like a youngster compared to her. She seems more emotionally mature, even though they're both, 800 years old. And we find out that that's exactly what happens in a flashback. There's a very dark scene that's related to this. I'm not gonna talk about now. I'll bring it up shortly. But the fact they gave her a lot of screen time and everything's going on there, this is just, I'm hooked into this whole thing. It was not too long at all, this exchange. It's the right way to take a character, flesh them out a little bit, and that's it. Really, I agree with you. This is a very strong episode so far up to this point. Yeah, liking it a lot. They get a tip from her. Hey, talk to her, this blonde chick or whatever like that. She's one of Celeste, the cute blonde, and all that. All she wants is revenge. And so Skanky goes up to talk to Celeste, and he's like, "Which one of you girls is Celeste?" And then Nick comes up and he's like, "Excuse me, may I?" And he just has a better way with getting information out of the women. And so we find out Celeste obviously is one of the parts of the group that's getting basically kind of protection here, in a way, a place to sit and all that. So they get a lead here. And so it's simple, basic detective stuff when Nick brings her in and they talk to her about what's going on and everything. And then they decide to follow her because they really get nothing out of her, because they're trying to find out who's the person that gave the guy the information who works there. And all they got was a description. Go ahead.
Yes, because they talk about their pimp, Mason. She's one of Mason's girls. Julie was also one of Mason's girls. And at this point, you have Jeanette convinced that Mason was the one who killed Julie, and is worried about Celeste. They go ahead and they take him in, and he's saying, "We can get you out of this. We can go ahead, and we have so many options. We can protect you." And then they pull Mason. They let her go because she's really not giving anything. They follow, and Nick does he does use a vampire move to get out of the car whenever she approaches it. But when she goes back,
did you catch her at the scene? It was snowing.
No, I didn't. I forgot.
It is. And I was like, man, I wish this was an HD copy. Really brilliant, because I love the lighting effects, and they're shooting it at night with people walking around the streets. They're going to all the hookers falling around, and the one girl's like, "Oh, should I give you a discount?" That kind of stuff. And it's harmless, right? But it was snowing and all that too. At first I was like, wait a minute, is that an artifact on my DVD? And I went, no. And then you look at the ground and you could see it hitting the ground and all that too. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. You get Celeste going to the hideout, and she goes back to Mason and is like, "Mason, we're working tonight." Or no, he's asking her that. And he kind of pimp slaps her, and that's enough for Nick to go ahead, because he's listening through the door. He bursts in, gun out, and they go ahead and they're going to pull him in. And so you have Celeste waiting in the common area of the station, and Nick is still trying to convince him, but he's got a rock solid alibi.
They bring Natalie in for a little bit of info, though. Do you recall what that was?
Do they? No, I don't.
Well, they do it at one point here as they're going through to confirm it. The point is it's kind of like Dexter with blood splatter patterns. You can kind of tell angle of entry and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And she basically mentions, yeah, hey, just so you know, this person's got to be about 6 inches shorter. And not sure, but it's again, more. This is the physical evidence tying into the alibi that says, yeah, I don't think it's this guy.
And it's funny. It's funny because Nick still. So this guy's going to get away because he he shot a little low, really, and it's like, well, Nick, if you listen to this,
yeah, but just put the emotion aside for a little minute.
So Celeste does end up leaving the station because she's not going to cooperate. She goes to the Raven, and it is almost morning, so they are closing up completely. You have Miklos, the bartender, and you have Jeanette telling him, "Hey, serve her a drink anyway. Go ahead." And she's trying to convince her that she doesn't have to go with him, that she can be safe. She can stay there. And Celeste is like, "No, I'm going with him. I owe him everything." And so she does. She does go. And that leads to Jeanette in the middle of the day going and taking a trip to Nick's apartment. I had a little pause here.
Yes.
Pause here. Because
oh, man. Go ahead.
I want you to notice when she walks in, she's wearing like this hood and cloak to go ahead and cover herself. And Nick is standing by the table. Obviously, he still has to be careful. But he only lowers the shades when she comes in. So he is building up what looks to be some kind of immunity.
That may be true. I don't know if you're reading too much into that because I didn't even notice where she's standing, that light pattern there, which obviously seems to be coming from the background there. What I loved about this and why I chose this big picture is not because of how she's there, but look how it's framed with the three things. I put the piano there, lady gets pensive on with his candelabra and does his little playing and all that. He's obviously got the smoking jacket on, probably velvet, and he's got leather-bound volumes, clad in rich mahogany on his desk, along with a bottle of wine, blood, that he's doing. Some go, wait a minute, he was trying to be clean last episode. Maybe he's fallen off the wagon here a little bit. And yeah, you're right. He's whatever tolerance maybe he's building up, he's losing. But they don't really explain it that much. But the point is this looked like last year's Swinging Singles Bachelor pad, not like the one we saw last week that had a lot of the white and the artsy stuff. So I don't know if that's a thing or we saw it wrong or it was just last episode or they were filmed out and shown out of where. I really don't know. But I love the fact that, like I say, okay, we get to see a bartender we've never seen before at the Raven. Now we get to see her because she's pissed at all this stuff, and so she comes to see him, and she's got one thing on her mind, and it's not the fun kind. She's got blood, on her veins. And what I thought was kind of cool about it was right before her, like you said, when she decides to go with it, basically the pimp intimidates her into coming back, because that's how the relationships go. Whenever you're in an abusive relationship, the person who's being abused always goes back to the other person, typically speaking. I'm not speaking low on anybody if they've ever been in a situation like that. That's the power dynamic that happens in a human relationship. And of course, none of them realize that she's a vampire, but they let her act a little bit. You see the contempt on her face and all that, and she could kill him. And he basically throws the money down, and the guy was grade A D-bag. And then of course she does the squeezing of the wine thing and it breaks and all that. Stupid stuff like that's effective. And I thought, this actress is really doing a good job of selling me on her being a very passionate woman, even for being 8 years old. And her actually, as she's running across the parking lot, like to go into his building that he lives in with the sun coming up, was a nice little touch. So yeah, when he gets there and they start talking, I'm like, okay, this episode's different. It's hitting a little harder. It's hitting a little deeper. We're about halfway through. I'm vibing it. And they have the conversation here. And this is an actress where instead of being pissed, emotional, sad, this is the scene I referenced a few minutes ago that I wanted to take a minute to expand on, because I'm actually not going to speak fun of it, because this is the darkest thing that I've seen up to this point in Forever Night, because it was roughly 800 years ago. So I think this is pre-Crusades, but you still had knights, you still had whatever. And I'm sure this is probably Christian France at the time,
Oh,
which
it's
is,
definitely.
well, but I mean, you had Protestants and Catholics, and I don't know religion and history that well, but I think it was predominantly Catholic and turned more Protestant, whatever it is. You know, you have those things that are going on in Ireland to this day. But they had shown Jeanette as a young woman in this convent with a friend of hers, and the brief story is basically because the guy had sex with her, that she had left her husband, or her husband made her leave because she was not able to produce a child. And then it turns out the guy that's sexing her up there as a hoe gets her pregnant. So now she's got no value at all, right? And she's like unpure or whatever. And she's basically trying to console her and all that. And the most disturbing thing about this, and also badass about it, is that it looks fantastic with the lights and the smoke machines and the candles. But the best scene of all, the darkest, is exactly not when we hear the background of the story, because that's how it is, because this is a flashback. It's when we see the soldiers walking by and they're trying to basically rape her, and she's trying to run away. And we see the nuns and we see the priests walking by, and they know exactly what's going on. She stops. Father, Father, I need your help from the knights.
Help me, and they
And
go
he's like,
ahead,
he's like,
move along.
well, he's like, yeah, just, don't let anybody see it, or whatever like that. Like, the hell with you, get out of here. It was just very dismissive of it. Like, you're not even one of God's children is worth saving. They turned a complete blind eye to her, where back then you thought there might have been some level of holiness to it, or like that. They completely turned her back on her, and they didn't really get religious in any of this. And I've always said this is a very progressive show. Nick not really having a gun and trying to do the humane thing and all that. And it's a different take on it. It's a little campy. It's late night TV, but I love the angle. And here they're diving into it because this is evil shit. So basically, they're coming at him. She's getting ready to get raped there in the churchyard at night while all these people walk past her, until we hear the whooshing sound that we've all heard 50 million times, and we know that it's a vampire. And we see a shape drop down, bite the guy on the neck, turn around, and we get Les Croix there. And at this point, I'm like, I'm going to say it, pardon my French, fuck yeah, this is good stuff.
Yep. Yes, it is. It's fantastic. I'm so glad, because I just, after last week, staring at LaCroix and just thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? Why are they making these decisions to go ahead and have him reappear again? And it feels more like the presence he had in that first season, which is always great. After that, we have
it's where Nick's talking to Jeanette, and honestly, she's got very little to add in this season, or a lot of episodes, which is a bit disappointing to me so
you mean
far.
Natalie?
Natalie, I'm sorry, but she says to him, she says to Nick, she goes, he basically is like, sweet talking her, and he uses this voice here, and he lets her talk and all that. Basically, I was trying to figure out about Celeste, and she's like, well, if she wants to be saved, she can get saved. And it's just it's her verbally telling him the parallel of what's happening, that she's unaware of it. Well, she kind of knows about Nick, but it's the parallel that Jeanette and Nick are going through with LaCroix. It's the same exact thing. They have somebody who's physically in charge of their lives and that made them who they are, and it's a question of how they live, which is the difference between why Nick's choosing to do what he's doing, how Jeanette's choosing to do hers, or maybe hasn't done anything yet, and now we've got the introduction of LaCroix. So, like I said, it's the parallel of the old story versus the new one with the human element saying it. I mean, I don't know how much more obvious it can be, but it's very sharp writing for this episode.
Yeah. Yep. And then after that, Nick is going to go look for Jeanette
Pimp.
again.
The pimp.
Yeah, well, no, he goes first to the Raven to see Jeanette, but she's not there. Left Mikolos in charge, and where is she? And he has a good hint, so he rushes over and walks into the room, and you have Jeanette all vamped out, the guy's dead on the table, but she didn't do it. No bite, no nothing. He was already dead.
Yeah.
Yep. She just wished she could have done it herself. And so after that, they're worried Celeste will be in danger. So they send this one background cop.
Rando cop.
Yeah. This is the most character a rando cop has gotten. Whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Draper, maybe? Who knows? And they still are unsure of who it could be. And during this time, we get another flashback with Lacroix, and he goes ahead and he's saying, "Oh, I can free you of these chains that you have around you. I can give in to me, and I will give you a true gift." Which I think is, I'm glad we got this scene. I'm glad we got this to see her become a vampire and see that it is separate from Nick. It's just a different time.
Right. I think Nick's turn came after hers, if I remember correctly. Maybe relatively soon, but I think she was already vamp at the time.
I can't really remember
if they
addressed that last season. It was 2 years ago now. Forever ago. We've consumed a lot of entertainment since then. But they're driving around. They're trying to get some more information, and actually, we get another. What you mentioned before, you get a hooker that comes up and says, "Oh, well, are you looking for a deal? Oh, cops, how about a discount? About 2 on 1, 300 for
both.
300 for me and whatever her name." And she makes a mention that was Mason's specialty.
Mm-hmm. He liked 2 women at the same time.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. It just, you're bringing more to the party when you get down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So,
however, that's Skanky's only contribution besides eating clean until he decides not to, because nobody cares about his character, even though I think he's a good actor, because he immediately conveys that information to Nick, who makes the connection that, well, wait a minute, that means there's got to be another person involved.
Yeah, they go back to the guy and say, "Hey, we don't want to bring your wife and your neighbors and everybody in here on this, but was there supposed to be somebody else there?" And he admits, yes, there was supposed to be a second girl in the room. But when he got there, just found her dead and wasn't thinking about that. So, that changes things. Meanwhile, we have, I think the name is Draper, something like that.
Cop.
Yes, with Celeste in the room, and they're calling and saying, "No, let's change. Keep her safe. We believe the killer's still out there." And he is trying his best. I like the guy. He's fine. The rando cop is fine, and he's trying to say, "Hey, listen, I got a wife and I got a kid and a daughter that I worry about, and so I just we'll do our best for you. You just got to believe it." And she says, "Well, I'm sorry. That's not part of my plan." Pulls out a gun and shoots him. He's dead.
I've got to ask you.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea she was the killer?
Yeah.
And if so, when?
There was, so the first part, I go ahead and you have her acting like, "Oh no, Mason couldn't have done it." But the whole thing is, she's trying to set up Mason for the kill.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know about the alibi, but she's trying to set up Mason for, the kill. So that way she can step in on the territory. That's what it comes down to. Take over. Be the Madam Pimp. The mistress. It was after I saw her go back to Mason again that I was like, oh, she's not right.
Yeah, he's gonna get his.
Yeah, and so he ended up dead, and I knew, again, they would find him dead. I didn't think Jeanette was actually going to do the killing. So at that point, I knew it was her. That's fine. That's fun. They go to the room, they find them dead, and she's gone. Oh no! But Nick is quickly figuring it out. And Celeste has run back to Jeanette. We get the flashback of Jeanette turning. Oh, why isn't it popping up? There it is. Jeanette turning. And Jeanette feels a connection to Celeste. Is kind of, oh man, what's the word?
Well, Celeste runs in there, and she is basically like running and taking her up on an offer about a safe haven. And so we're seeing Jeanette almost want to marry what Lacroix did as far as giving her the alternative by turning her, right? So you're like, see how the tables have turned, all that too. And
Yep.
we see some on the flashback, one of these knights who's supposed to be, a holier than now Puritan kind of guy, a paladin or whatever, getting a little rapey with one of the ladies in bed, and the claws to the rescue. And since Jeanette was freshly turned, this appears to be her first blood kill. I mean, Lacroix sets it up, and she's like, "The best revenge is revenge." But she says it in French, and we get the subtitles, which is a nice little touch because she's getting ready to turn Celeste and all this. And I thought, wow, I thought we'll go. We see Nick come in here and explain it all there. You take this part.
Yes. Nick rushes in right as she's bearing fangs. Jeanette is ready to bite in and turn her. But then he rushes in and says, Jeanette, no! She's the one who killed him. And she looks at her, and it's a look that says, is this true? And she's like, well, I had to. And as Nick is coming down, he's pointing out, like, no. Well, maybe that to kill Mason is one thing. But what about Julie? What about random cop? And she was just saying they were in the way because she wanted to take control as she had been taking control of. So she pulls out her gun at this point, and she goes ahead and tries to shoot Jeanette, and they're vampires. Ba-ba-ba. And then Nick kind of takes a shot as well, which felt unnecessary, really. But
damn it, a man getting in between two women. No, you're rolling, stay back and let him catfight.
He's worried that she's going to do something, but Jeanette says, don't worry, Nicholas. I'll let your justice deal with her. And so, quick mind trick, get rid of
she vamps her out.
Yeah, just go ahead.
We didn't see much of that, did we?
No, just plays with her memory a little bit. And, Natalie plays doctor after, Celeste is arrested, and she pulls out the bullets, and she asks, where do I get these? The wall? Well, that works. And, you have Jeanette and Nicholas as they're sitting there, and they're talking, and she's like, do you really think you can join their world? That you can adjust to that judgment fully? And he believes so.
Because if you don't try, that in itself is a fate worse than death. Because that's the whole idea, is the power structure, who's gotten in charge of you and your own agency, right? And so when somebody can lord over you, it gives you a built-in convenient excuse for when things don't go your way, or to take responsibility for the actions that you may have in the situation. So the fact that Lacroix turned them, even though it seems like he offered it to her, she doesn't know the ramifications of all that, and he's got to be the superior in that situation to know that he's doing it out of his own selfishness because he only wants a beautiful partner, companion for life, and he's thinking by doing this he can convince her to do it, and that never works when you force a relationship that way. And to some extent he wanted that with Nick, and so you could say in the first episode or two with the flashbacks we would see last season, that he's really more of the patriarch of those two, and they're almost like a brother-sister kind of relationship rather than lovers, because he seems like a 12, 13, 14-year-old boy discovering his sexuality and his attraction to women and how they were, where she's like the 18, 20-year-old or whatever like that knows it because she's lived it, right? And that's the dynamic between it. It almost seems like father and son and daughter rather than really, really old badass alpha who needs a really, really badass alpha female. And I don't know if they'll get into any of that or all that stuff, because it always has to begin from somewhere. I do think that when Natalie was playing Doctor, Jeanette from went her into she goes, "Thank you, Doctor," and I thought, I don't know why, but that exchange seemed like, I'll just say I don't know that it turns into anything in the future, or if it's just the way it turned out. But it seemed like it was notable because it seemed like that was the first time I recognized, and I may be wrong, that Jeanette acknowledged a human and a human female in Natalie that wasn't
You're wrong.
whatever, huh?
You're wrong. Towards the end of the last season, there was an episode where Jeanette, I think, had to go to Natalie to help Nick in some way. And after that point, it was kind of awkward. Not really awkward at the end, because you have the two that are interested in Nick there, and there was that kind of tension there.
Yeah.
But that has happened. That happened in the last season.
Okay. Well, just like I say, I think they put her on a back burner when it comes to being a potential romantic interest. Obviously, she knows what Nick is, and I assume she knows that she knows that about Jeanette.
Yes, she does.
But I know, but there's the thing that's the only thing that I just go, I don't get it, because we're getting more of the vamp stuff, which is cool. Is if this is going down the road of being a bit more serious, a little more darker, a little bit more supernatural rather than cop showish, I'm okay with that. But I don't know what the universe is and how they're going to show it to me. Keep doing it, but what's lacking in the show to me is anybody from the human side that seems to be aware this exists other than her. And I feel like that's probably massively underdeveloped. And I just keep thinking Skanky at some point's got to not just be the guy that's there just to leave a scene, come back after Nick figures something out, and says, "Okay, partner, let's go," and make some comment that we don't care about or listen to, right? Even though he's the king of doing it. And I do like the guy. But yeah, here's the thing. I think Celeste herself as the hooker, good looking woman, nice, interesting haircut from back in the time, very kind of dated in that sort of way. The first hooker was nice looking. I appreciate the fact that they're willing to show little sexiness and lingerie in this show without being overtly, twerking in your face kind of sexual that way. It's just a hint of it. It's a little erotic rather than sexual. And so it's kind of cool. And it's not a judgment, but I wanted to ask you, since this whole episode in the present seems like it's about women who feel like they don't need men to be in charge because they rule the world and they're getting back at them. Do you think that was a bit more of a stronger take in this episode, or do you think it was more of just about the vampire thing, about,
no,
being in charge of them?
The clear motive that they were trying to show was talking about how, and Jeanette full on says it, 800 years ago, we were wives, we were daughters to be sold, wives to bear children, or ladies of the night like her to be used.
Part of me wanted to go, and
what she was saying, like, that's what it was 800 years ago, and even today it is pretty much the same. And Nick has to say, no, it's not. You gotta see, even though there are still problems, things are getting better.
Right.
But yeah, no. And the parallels between a prostitute and a vampire are very strong. So
yeah, it's a smart episode. I enjoyed a lot of the first one I thought was decent. I liked it. This one I think was very strong. I'm hoping this trend continues where they're very solid or sometimes good. I think Jeanette did a great job of acting. I think the plus in this episode for me is not the quality of the background that they're just lightly peppering us with. I think training us to expect to see more of LaCroix, right? But I was really impressed with what would just be another generic B, C-level actor in a show doing really well, and that was Celeste. I thought her ability to be the killer and her acting job on there, going through all three of them, I thought was pretty good, because it wasn't until the 6 inches short I went, oh yeah, it's got to be another girl, another woman, who, the wife maybe, I don't know, but they have to introduce you to the characters, and so once we got introduced to us, I'm like, oh, it's got to be her. So I kind of thought that a little bit early. I thought, and it was still fine. I liked that. I thought she did a good job. So I'm clapping my hands right now. Fun episode, season 2, episode 2, A Fate Worse Than Death, A Forever Night. Any other final thoughts? Observations?
Fantastic episode. I'm so happy because you know how I felt at the end of last week, and I was really worried that this season was going to be all that. But no, this was a great episode, solid, well worth my time.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm looking forward to next week when we cover episode 3. So for Superfan Kevin and everybody else that's out there, yes, we do one episode a week. The next one we'll do it will probably be next year. We usually interject a season of Columbo and sometimes another TV show in that, and then between those breaks a movie and all that. So depending on how long they go and the holidays and whatnot, that's how it goes. But so far Forever Night's been worth it too, and I appreciate the super fans, not just Kevin but the others that retweet it and have joined us chat here tonight. It's a fun show. It's a nice popcorn show. I'm enjoying it. It's pretty good. It's on Tubi TV right now. If you're in the United States, check that out for free. I don't know of anything else I want to say other than check it out. And then Sunday night, RTV and I will be live with a film to be determined at this point. Actually, no, we'll be with Miami Vice, season 1, episode, I believe it's 8. Pretty good stuff there. Check that out. And then Tuesday night, we'll have our next karate movie, and it's actually going to be another early 90s movie. We're on the early 90s theme, which is RDV's age. I know you're the odds there, Pixel, but we're doing a Cynthia Rothrock movie at that time. That'll be kind of interesting too. So for Professor Brooks, everybody involved here at the Extreme Movie Show, thank you all for listening. Thank you for retweeting. Good night.
Good forever night.
Let's see.